Hello, everybody. I just finished a wonderful call with my inner circle members. And one of the topics that came up was something I'm sure you've experienced as well, and I know I experienced it. And that is playground teasing, playground bullying. For me, I was clumsy, tripped over on my own feet, and called a wimp, wuss, whatever. But when there are obvious things like kid that wears glasses, you could be called four eyes, a nerd, anything like that. Well, what about a kid that needs a little bit more, like orthotics or special headphones because they're too sensitive to noise? And these kids are mocked, teased, pointed at, laughed at. This goes beyond teasing. This is mocking somebody because of a disability. This is making somebody feel embarrassed or othered or ashamed because they need something extra to take care of themselves. They need glasses to engage the world so they can see clearly and access information the same way you do visually. And you want them to feel embarrassed about it? How does it help that person grow? I mean, I understand that kids, by and large, can feel anxious about things that are different from themselves. That's why it is so important for us to have conversations about diversity with our kids. You can't say boys will be boys or that's just the way kids are. They're that way because they don't know better. They need to be taught better. Our society is way too divided, especially around the idea of difference, because we don't talk enough about the beauty and the advantages of difference. We certainly don't talk about it in terms of race enough. That's a different conversation. We absolutely don't discuss it in terms of disability or mental health challenges. The advantages of working with people that also have difficulties, because all we are trained to see is the disability or the illness or the challenge. We're trained to see the negativity, the liability in it. Look at how it's diagnosed, for crying out loud. Problem, 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 dysfunction, disorder, syndrome. No wonder we look so about it, negatively upon it, because that's how we're taught. How do you talk about people's differences in your household? Do your kids overhear you talking disparagingly about people with differences? Now, you may have this knee jerk reaction and say, "Oh, I never talked like that." I want to encourage you to pay more attention and listen to yourself. We are often unaware of our own biases, and you can't afford to be so self righteous that you lose the self awareness of what's actually coming out of your mouth and what's being modeled. Because as somebody from the disabilities community, sending people out into the world with the attitude that somebody who needs an accommodation is a liability is a danger to society and is a danger to people with disabilities. Because you immediately see somebody with challenges and you disqualify them as being a valuable participant in your life. And a lot of it starts with this teasing, this othering, this looking at a child that is struggling in some way, needing some additional conversa- accommodation, and thinking, oh, this person is different from me in such a way that makes them a liability. Disability must never become that, ever, for another person. Because difference does not mean liability. Difference, if anything, should be met with curiosity. So that you see somebody who's wearing orthotics on their feet, like I wear, because my ankles are incredibly unstable. Somebody who wears maybe thick glasses because they have difficulty seeing, who has a cochlear implant or hearing aids. You can step up and introduce yourself and ask somebody to tell them or to tell you about themselves. See if any of these accessories work themselves into the conversation. Because those things are no doubt part of their story, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those things are the headline of their story. You will likely find there are far more interesting things about them than the fact that they are disabled or living with a mental health challenge. But the only way you're going to discover that is if you get past that initial reaction that Their difference makes them a liability somehow. It doesn't have to. It only gets in the way if you let it. So that's my 2 cents on that. Please be mindful of the messages that you send about the value of difference. Please zero in on what your beliefs are about it. And if you hold some biases or prejudice, let's have a conversation about how you can learn to view those things differently. Because even if you're not living with a mental health challenge or a disability, you are still part of the solution because you are part of this society and part of this world. And we're all in this together, so we can't move forward without you. So if you're interested in this conversation, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. Till we talk next, thanks for being you.